Okay, first off, as I said, you don't need to target a hero for it to work. You can target anything, including creeps and illusions, which means that you can actually use it as an undispellable 8-second finder and marker of the real PL. If there's a big mob of PL illusions and the real PL is definitely among them, you can just cast Soulbind on any of the illusions, and the game itself will tell you which one the real one is by linking him to that illusion. If you manage to randomly select the true PL himself, that's even better. It won't make a chain, but it will give a debuff icon right above the guy that he cannot get rid of, even with Doppelganger. For 8 seconds, that PL can do nothing but run around with a giant icon above him, and he can even reattach the chain to a new target if he accidentally runs within 550 range of another hero, because yes, even after breaking once, the spell keeps checking, and if you break the chain only to walk into another allied hero, the chain reappears and locks you to them. Having said that, it doesn't link to invisible or invincible heroes, like Ones and Cyclone. With that in mind, you can cast it on a creep, tether that creep to an enemy hero, then Midas the creep, and also Midas the hero, insta-killing him and then being awarded thousands and thousands of golden XP. No, I'm just kidding, you can't actually do that as much as I really wanna. It gives True Sight to anyone linked, as well as giving Grimstroke and his team the same vision that the enemy target has. If that enemy target is on the high ground, now all of a sudden we can see from the high ground, with his vision. The way I worded it, it might make you think they would be able to see their ward vision and tower vision and all that, but nah, those units count as their own thing, so we're only acquiring the around 1800 day vision or 800 night vision of the two units that we snag. So pretty neat, right? It is possible, although very hard, to break the chain with force movement. The only problem with that is, of course, the fact that the chain will just jump to the next closest ally in the radius. So that rules out things like Pudge hooking out his friend to safety, because in doing that he's just making himself the new tether target, unless he was to do something like blink during a hook, but that's getting pretty out there, right? To break the chain, you need to travel more than 700 units away from the other person. The problem is, at 550 units you go down to 0 movement speed. So there's the riddle. How do we get to 701 units apart from 550 units apart? And if you answered any of Skewer, Leap, Pounce, Tree Dance, Primal Spring, Phoenix's Sunray Movement, Force Staff, or Hurricane Pike, you are wrong, actually, because these spells are actually trumped by the Soulbind Chain. Force Staff can only work in this very, very specific angle where both of you are pushing against the 550 mark and facing directly away from each other, then one of you casts it. Fortunately, every other form of force movement works. Hook, of both the meat and shot varieties, Rolling Boulder, Fire Remnant, Life Break, Tether, Waveform, Rolling Thunder, Icarus Dive, that sort of thing. And considering there are 117 heroes in Dota, odds are probably against you having a way to break it. Sorry. What's funny is that Soulbind doesn't work with allied spells. Dazzle can't Shallow Grave, Oracle can't do any of his spells, Omni-Knight can't do all of his. That kinda sucks, right? Like, not necessarily because it would be balanced, but more just because it'd be fun. It'd honestly be a really nice touch for Soulbind to do what it actually says it does on the tin, and allow any unit to target spell that either receives to also be cast on the other hero. It's what it says it does, man. And who would argue that giving Soulbind the ability to actually be utilized by the enemy team in order to save the people in Soulbind would be a bad thing? I mean, sure, maybe it brings the potential of the spell down for Grimstroke, but man, oh man, it'd up the skill ceiling for anyone going against him. You'd actually have to be smart and proactive to consider the fact that you could actually save soulbound allies with your heals. I, for one, am all for it. Before we get into it though, ask yourself what should happen with status resistance upon casting spells with Soulbind. Because I can probably guarantee that what you're imagining should happen and what actually happens is not the same thing. It gets weird. So what's that I hear? Is that the Whispers of Guile's theme? Well, that can only mean one thing, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for a montage. Let's stop talking about all the spells Soulbind doesn't work with, and let's start talking about all the spells that it does. Well, with. Here is every neat interaction with Grimstroke, Soulbind, and any other single target spells. Take it away, Guile. Firstly, along with allied heroes, turns out dominated neutral groups can't cast spells that double up with Soulbind, so I guess we've uncovered that it's probably hard-coded to be spells that only originate from units classified as heroes, which would mean creep heroes would also count, right? Unfortunately, there's only 7 of them, and of those 7, only 2 actually cast targeted spells. Well anyway, in the interest of not boring you to death, as well as having this video be less than 9 hours long, any interaction that is literally just, it doubles up, I'm gonna skip. Let's go! Abaddon's Missed Coil damages Abaddon twice! Batrider's Lasso with Ags can catch up to 4 targets if the 2 tethered ones aren't too close to each other to just be the one snagged by Lasso's secondary pickup. With Grimstroke and Refresher you can snag up to 8, perfect when you're tryharding in a Dota 10v10 match. Bane's Fiend's Grip should just be part of that rule I stated earlier where it just doubles up, but it sort of gets wacky, because yes, you're channeling Fiend's Grip on 2 people, but this is probably a bug. If one of the grips is dispelled, which can happen, it happens a lot, the other one doesn't get dispelled. even though your channeling animation stops and the channeling bar stops too. Really weird, right? It's almost as if that second guy is being gripped without us needing to stand still to channel it. But it can't be that simple and fun, right? Oh, what's actually happening is that you're still channeling. It doesn't look like you're channeling, but you are channeling. If you take a step, the second grip breaks. And yes, it's probably a bug. But that does not mean it's going to be fixed anytime soon. Beastmaster's Primal Roar might actually just push the two targets far enough away from each other that you accidentally just break the soulbind chain. Be careful with it. Obviously in this hypothetical game where a Beastmaster is played and also manages to hit level 6, but that's just silly. That'll never happen. Oh god, Bounty Hunter's Ag Shuriken Toss does something wacky too. In fact, so do all spells in the same vein, like Paralyzing Cast and Lich's Chain Frost. What happens is that normally Ag Shuriken bounces back through all tracked enemies, and normal Shuriken without Ags, with Soulbind, sends 2 Shurikens. So in this scenario with Soulbind and non-Ag Shuriken Toss, the Soulbound enemies would be hit 4 times, right? Once from normal Shuriken, once from normal Shuriken hitting the opposite enemy and reflecting back, and 2 more times from the second person Shuriken doing the same thing. Okay, alrighty. Well now let's just add in Ags, right? And watch this. Oh. You think that's bad? This is what happens with Cask.
Consider the coconut.
You know how I said Brewmaster's Broodlings can probably cast spells because they're technically creep heroes? Turns out, nope. This one's pretty obvious, but just to warn you, Centaur's Double Edge self-damages Centaur twice, so be careful. Death Prophet's Spirit Siphon is straight broken, like every charge-based ability in their own way. Siphon is broken because the person you cast it on won't get it, but the second guy will. What? Haskar jumps from the first target to the second, taking self-damage for both. He'll always end up at the second one, so just keep that in mind if you're wanting to make a getaway. Juggernaut's Omnislash, just like every spell that involves physically attacking, won't work. That includes Charge of Darkness, Focus Fire, Nether Strike, and Razor's Static Link, but probably for different reasons. Probably balance reasons. But then there's LC in a duel, and this just gets mind-bending. Okay, so both get dueled at the same time if LC duels one. Both will attack LC, but LC will only attack the first. She will proc a Moment of Courage on account of that second one attacking her, which is good and actually pretty smart, although you'd have to be pretty ballsy or snowballing out of control to literally have a 2-on-1 brawl with the enemy team. If LC kills that first target, she gets the damage. The second target's duel also ends, and LC gets that duel's bonus damage too. If LC loses, however, both of her targets get bonus damage. And if that's not confusing enough, if LC has Ags, both targets are completely immune to outside damage, but can still take damage from LC. But get this, LC is immune to all damage, including the 2 people she's dueling. And it actually makes complete sense if you imagine like a Venn diagram in your head, right? On the left is target A, on the right, target B, and in the middle is LC. And this is the 2 duels. It's every single person in a duel and who is in which duel. Okay, right? LC's Ags makes it that anyone outside of a duel can't deal damage in a duel. And what LC is effectively doing is casting 2 duels on 2 people at the same time. So that would mean that target A can't deal damage to LC, who is in a separate duel with target B, because it'd be an outside force. And the same for target B to A. Neither can damage LC, and LC can damage both. Your head hurting yet? Lich's Chain Frost throws the second one after the first one, and they independently bounce around 11 times each, so 22 damage instances all up. Wow, that was refreshingly simple. Lion loves Soulbind. I mean, every single spell that he has is a single target spell, unless they become AoE, in which case, I mean, obviously they're not. So, yeah, even Earthspike when ground cast works, and Earthspike being a unit targeted spell that is also AoE, which is a rare thing, means that one person can be hit by both of the spikes given good enough positioning. Medusa throws 3 snakes for no reason. I don't know why. I mean, it's an odd number. How does that even work, right? I'm not complaining or anything. You could steal upwards of 1 billion mana in one go, I think. But the fact is, like, I don't know how it works, and it sort of irks me. Leave it in the comments if you know. If you don't know, leave it in the comments that you don't know. If you don't know but you want to come across as smarter than you are, just take a wild guess in the comments. If you want to say hi to me, leave it in the comments. If you want to talk about Artifact, send your emails to I hate Artifact and all it stands for, but there's probably a lot of money in it, so I'll probably play it on this channel and pretend to love it at gmail.com. Morphling's Adaptive Strike with a level 25 talent throws 6 of them. Morph only copies the first target. I mean, you can't be 2 heroes at the same time. That makes sense. Odie's Astral Imprisonment works like a charm. Because they come out at the exact same time, both will be hit by the other's astral damage. PA's Dagger does the same as Morphling and as Adaptive Strike. She'll throw 6 daggers, any or all of them possibly containing a 4k crit. Yikes. Pudge's Dismember works like Bane's Fiend's Grip, and because of the way that it brings people forward, that other guy who's like miles away will also be brought forward by it. Wagner's Life Drain does the suck on both targets at the same time. Rubik's Spellsteal didn't work, because of course it didn't. If nothing else, them boys at Valve know to check any new spell's interaction with Spellsteal. It's like an SCP that has to be contained and monitored constantly, and the one patch where they don't check it will be the Apocalypse, and that's how I assume Dota will end. Skyrith's Arcane Bolt throws out 4 with a level 15 talent, it throws out 8 with that and eggs for 90 mana. Pretty good. Sniper, of course, does this. Tinker with a laser deals about 900 billion damage pure, also pretty good. Vengeful Spirits is fucking confusing, so just know that by the end of it, Venge will be where the first target was, the first target will be where the second one was, and the second one will be where Venge was. I hope. I'll have to get back to you on that one. Visage's Soul Assumption straight up breaks irreparably, so I'd be careful with ever casting it. The only cure is death, which, like, isn't really a cure, right? Warlock's Fatal Bonds stacks, dude, disgustingly powerful, and Winter's Curse does the same as Duel. The two enemies will fight each other, but not be able to deal damage to each other. And of course, if you're Terrorblade, this is what Sunder does with Soulbind.
Give me the gun, I'm taking the car.
What do I do about him?
I don't want the car. I just need a gun.
No way I'm giving up the gun, I want the car.
So, you need a gun, and you want a car.
What do you want?
Well, I've never owned a knife.
Okay, let's all switch on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Is this right?
I don't think so.